All right, here's my engaged audience, Mr. Myers. I'm gonna hand off the camera for you guys, and here we go.
Yeah, I know it's a full pack.
Okay, so I did the conservation controversy, and so what is the conservation controversy? So one of the issues that we kind of looked at in the iBook was a logger in Oregon who the place where he logged, it became a like a sanctuary, like a protected area, and he wasn't able to work anymore. And that's kind of like an example of the conservation controversy. So what I put here is I said that it combines two important kind of clashing ideas. We have the idea that we need natural resources to build and survive, but we also need to protect nature. So and protect kind of our forests and stuff, and I'll elaborate on that later. So why is this important and how does it relate to current times? So one really important reason is that as global warming and climate change becomes a greater issue, trees are going to be really important for photosynthesis and for just making oxygen and combating climate change, all that. So that's important. Um, Not places like parks, ecosystems, state parks, national parks. Those provide recreation, beauty, etc. So some logic behind pro-conservation arguments. We got nature is beautiful, basically. So parks are beautiful, state parks are beautiful. We have that these are also for state parks and for national parks. This is a source of revenue for the government. Many natural areas in ecosystems are sensitive. So if we go just bulldoze one thing, then that's going to be a problem. And that'll kind of have a chain reaction and affect the ecosystems down the line. And then finally, plants are really important in combating climate change. And I will go into this later, but that's going to be a key theme for this. So some anti-conservation arguments. Conservation efforts limit business and developmental opportunities. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now with a little kind of connection to the current administration and kind of cutting the funding for the EPA and stuff like that. And that may help business, but at the same time, that's going to harm all of our protected areas, harm nature, harm the environment. So that's one thing to think about. As the pace of technology increases, and as a species we get more technologically advanced, we have to kind of find that balance where we're going to be using a lot of natural resources, but we also need to be protecting natural resources. So we have to find that kind of Goldilocks spot. All right, so my opinion. So should the USA do more or less to protect the environment? So my personal opinion is that we should definitely be doing more. And this is because, first of all, setting aside land for national parks and state parks is, like I mentioned before, is source of revenue, recreation, but that's just a minor kind of important, still important, but another issue. The EPA. So right now, I mentioned this earlier. The EPA had its funding cut, and the EPA is super crucial. It has stuff like the Clean Air Act, which is what they passed, Clean Water Act, and these are really good for protecting air, water, keeping our kind of environment, our atmosphere clean, and all that. So that's really important. So here I included a graph of this is going to be annual temperatures from 1880 to 2015. And as you can see, there's definitely a trend of upward temperatures. So we notice that at 2015, it passes 1 degree Celsius above the 19th century. So this is kind of evidence that global warming is certainly happening. And my opinion continued is that climate change has been a rising problem, and by protecting lands which have forests, which have trees, this is going to help combat this climate change. It's going to help combat all the greenhouse gases. And another thing is that uh, is that with temperatures rising, there's going to be plants that are going to have more trouble to survive in some areas. In some areas of the world, and they're going to die out. And when we get to the point where the temperature of the earth is kind of too hot for some plants to survive, then that's a problem, because with the majority of plants not surviving at this hotter temperature, then plants, which is going to be one of our major kind of combatants to rising levels of greenhouse gases, those are not going to be a factor anymore, and that's going to cause climate change to accelerate very rapidly. And just some more things is renewable energy. I think while this isn't a conservation kind of specific type thing, renewable energy is going to be crucial for the future of the United States as well as the globe. And I think if the United States can kind of transition towards a more renewable energy system, then this is going to benefit not only the environment, but to not have to rely on oil, coal. That's going to be really important too. So in conclusion, I think the conservation controversy, while it is kind of tough to figure out what the relative ratio between kind of lands that we have to use for national resources and lands that we're going to protect, it's hard to find that kind of perfect ratio. I think despite this, we can still find that perfect ratio, and we just need to work for it. And as we grow and become more technologically advanced, and as the population grows and we use more resources per person, this is going to be really crucial, and we're going to have to be really efficient with our resources, because we can't just get rid of all of nature, get rid of all plants. That's going to lead to many, many more problems. So here are my works cited. Thank you, and stay safe.